Hello, friends. I don't usually share stories like this, mostly because people think I'm either drunk or delusional when I do. But lately, the nightmares have been getting worse, and I figured maybe talking about it will help. So here goes nothing. This happened to me 2 years ago when I was driving cross country from Oregon to Tennessee. I was on a soul-searching kind of trip. One of those find yourself in the mountains journeys you romanticize after a bad breakup. The plan was simple. Camp along the way, take the scenic routes, avoid major highways. But somewhere along the way, I took a wrong turn. And that wrong turn didn't just take me off route, it led me into a place that shouldn't exist. A town that doesn't show up on any GPS. A place called Hollow Pines. And if you've ever driven alone through the American backwoods, you already know the feeling. That heavy silence. That strange stillness in the trees. The way the air gets colder for no reason, like the forest is. Watching you, I should have turned around. I should have trusted my gut. But he didn't. And that's why I'm telling you this story. Because whatever lives in Hollow Pines, it doesn't want to be found. It started with a detour. Not the kind that comes from a closed road or a GPS reroute. No, this was different. I had just crossed into northern Alabama from Mississippi. It was late afternoon. Golden hour, the sky was bleeding orange. And everything looked peaceful. I had no destination in mind. Just back roads, my truck, and a playlist full of sad country songs and acoustic regrets. That's when I saw the sign. It was barely standing, wooden, weather-beaten, and half buried in vines. Hollow Pines, 7 miles. An arrow pointed right, into a forested stretch of cracked pavement. It wasn't on my map, not on my GPS either. But something about it felt quiet, like the kind of place where you could breathe again, and maybe forget things you didn't want to remember. So, like an idiot, I turned right. The road narrowed fast. Branches clawed at the sides of my truck. And the deeper I went, the worse the cell signal got. Within 2 miles, I had no bars, just trees. Trees everywhere. Dense, crooked pines, standing like they'd been watching this road for centuries. I remember thinking how still it all was. No birds, no wind, no animals crossing the road. Just the hum of my engine and my own breath. Around the 5th mile, I saw her, a woman, standing by the roadside. Long gray dress, muddy at the bottom. Pale skin, brown hair, tied back tight. And eyes like glass. Not fear, not sadness, just empty. I slowed the truck, rolled my window down. "You okay, ma'am?" I asked. She just looked at me. No words, no blink. Then, slowly, she pointed behind her toward the trees. I should have driven off, but instead, I leaned toward the passenger seat and grabbed a bottle of water. "Here," I said, holding it out the window. "If you need help, I can." But when I turned back, she was gone. No footsteps, no sound, nothing. Just the trees again, and a deep, gnawing cold I hadn't felt before. I should have turned around. But curiosity's a bitch, you know? Especially when it feels like the world's daring you to keep going. And so, I did. 10 minutes later, the trees broke, and I found myself entering what I can only describe as a dead town. A single main street, abandoned gas station, rusted out pickup trucks, a diner with boarded windows. But what stood out most was the silence. Even ghost towns have echoes. This one had nothing. I parked my truck near what looked like a general store. The sign said, Linden Sons Est, 1893. Windows cracked, door half open. I stepped out, boots crunching gravel, and felt like I had just stepped into a photo from another century. Everything smelled of rust, wet soil, and something sweet, rotten sweet. Inside the store, it was darker than it should have been. Shelves covered in dust, old cans of corn, rotten boxes. And then, in the far corner, a man, thin, long beard, wearing an old butcher's apron stained a deep brown. He was just standing there, not moving, eyes cloudy, but focused. "You lost, son?" he asked. His voice sounded normal, calm, even friendly, but something in his face didn't match the voice. "Just passing through," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "Road trip. Saw the sign for Hollow Pines." He stared at me a beat longer than normal. "Most folks don't find this place," he said. Then he smiled wide, too wide, and showed a row of teeth, half of which were missing. Before I could answer, he said, "If you're looking to stay the night, talk to Mabel. She runs the boarding house down the hill." And then he turned, walked into a back room, never came back out. I should have left right then, but again, he didn't, because part of me wanted to know what the hell was wrong with this place, and part of me couldn't stop. I found the boarding house just like the old man said, a pale yellow 2-story house, tucked behind a grove of pine trees, shingles missing, porch light flickering even though the sun hadn't fully set. The sign in front said, "Mabel's room, board, since 1931. Paint was peeling, letters barely visible. I knocked once, then again. The door creaked open on its own. I hesitated. Something about crossing that threshold felt wrong, but I stepped in anyway. Inside, the place was dimly lit, yellow bulbs humming overhead, their light barely reaching the corners. The air smelled like old books and mold. Wallpaper was curling at the edges. There was a single desk near the stairs. No bell, just an old register and a taxidermy raccoon mounted above it, its mouth frozen in a snarl. That's when I heard the soft creak from above. I looked up the staircase and saw her, a woman in her 60s, maybe older, thin, wrinkled, wearing a faded green dress and house slippers. Her gray hair was tied into a bun, tight as wire. "You needing a room?" she called down, voice like a rusted screen door. I nodded. "Yeah, just for the night." She watched me for a moment longer, then started down the stairs, her hand never leaving the banister. As she stepped into the light, I saw her eyes milky white, cataracts so thick it was hard to believe she could see me at all. But something told me she could. "Name's Mabel," she said. "You'll be in room 4, upstairs, second on the right. Bathroom's at the end of the hall. I'll get you a key." I thanked her, paid in cash, and headed upstairs. Room 4 was small. One bed, one dresser, a mirror with a hairline cracked through the center. No TV, no outlets, just a lamp with a flickering bulb, and a single window facing the woods. I dropped my bag and sat on the edge of the bed. That's when I noticed it. A photo on the nightstand. 4 people, a man, a woman, and 2 kids. All of them smiling wide, too wide, and all of them wearing the exact same clothes I had seen on the woman by the roadside, and the man in the general store. No, that couldn't be right. I stood, heart racing, and stepped closer to the photo. The label beneath it said, "The Linden Family, Hollow Pines Founders, 1894. It didn't make sense. That photo was old, grainy, yellowed, decades gone, but I'd seen them, alive. Today, I turned the frame over, and written on the back, in shaky ink, were 5 words. "Don't look out the window." I turned fast. The window was open. I hadn't opened it. I was sure of it. The curtains moved slightly, even though there was no wind. And outside, across the pine grove, I saw her again. The woman in the gray dress, standing between the trees, still, silent, watching my room. No expression, no movement, just watching. And behind her, more shapes, shadows, dozens, lurking behind the trunks, watching with her. I shut the curtain, locked the window, and for the first time that day, I felt real fear settle in my bones. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak, every tap, every sound of something moving just beyond the walls. At around 3:10 a.m., I heard footsteps, not from above, From under the floorboards. Slow, heavy, wet. And then, a whisper. Right outside my door. Room 4. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. There was a shadow under the door. Someone standing there. Just standing. And then, knock, knock, knock. 3 soft knocks. Then silence. I waited. For minutes. Maybe hours. But they never knocked again. By morning, I had decided I was leaving. No breakfast. No small talk. Just pack my bag, get in the truck, and go. Except, my truck wouldn't start. Not a click. Not a hum. Battery was fine. Gas tank full. But it was as if something had sucked the life out of the engine overnight. I tried 3 times. Nothing. Then I heard the crunch of gravel behind me. Mabel was standing on the porch, holding a basket of bread. I figured you'd be hungry, she said, smiling like last night never happened. Dinner's at 6. Don't be late. He didn't respond. Just got out of the truck, muttered something about checking the engine later, and walked back inside. I spent most of the day trying to figure out what the hell was going on. No cell service. The road I came in from? Completely gone. Overgrown. Like it had never been a road at all. I walked to the gas station. No one there. The diner? Empty. The whole town was dead. Yet I knew people were watching me. I could feel it behind every cracked window, behind every half-closed curtain. Those A's. And every few hours, I saw her again. The woman in the gray dress. Always standing somewhere. Just far enough. Still, silent. Like a reminder. You're not leaving. 6 p.m. came too fast. I thought about skipping it, locking myself in the room and waiting for sunrise. But something told me they wouldn't let me. So I went. The dinner was held in a large wooden hall behind the church. Old building. No electricity. Just candlelight and the smell of meat. Cooking. Inside were maybe 15 people, all dressed like they'd come from a different century. Suspenders, long skirts, braided hair, boots polished to a shine. Mabel waved me in. Have a seat, Daniel, she said. They had a spot saved at the head of the long table, right between 2 pale, smiling men, with hands too large and fingers too thin. Plates were passed. Stew, bread, meat, thick, dark red meat. Too rare, too soft. I didn't want to eat, but every eye was on me, so I took a bite. It was sweet, but not like pork, not like anything I'd ever tasted. You like it? Mabel asked. I nodded slowly, swallowed hard. What is it? I asked, trying to sound casual. She smiled. Old family recipe, she said. From our founders. The entire table chuckled softly, like they all understood a joke I had no business hearing. After dinner, one of the men leaned close to me. His breath smelled like iron. You're the first outsider in 13 years, he whispered. We've been waiting. I stood. Fast. Excuse me, I muttered, backing away. But the room felt smaller now, their smiles wider, their eyes almost shining in the candlelight. I made it to the door, stepped out into the dark, ran all the way back to Mabel's house, locked the door, shut the curtains, pressed the dresser against the frame. I didn't sleep that night either, but this time, I knew they were coming, because sometime past midnight, the church bell rang. Once, then again, then a third time, and I heard them outside. Footsteps, laughter, a voice, singing a lullaby in a language I didn't recognize. Then, scratching at my window, long, slow, scratching, like nails, like claws, and then the soft, wet sound of someone breathing through the keyhole. It didn't sleep. I don't think I even blinked that night. I just sat on the floor with my back to the door, clutching a fireplace poker like it would somehow protect me from whatever the hell was outside. By sunrise, the scratching stopped. The singing faded, but the feeling that I was being hunted, that stayed. I knew I had to get out now. I grabbed my keys, threw my stuff into my bag, and bolted out the front door. The streets were empty again, too quiet. I sprinted to my truck, tried the ignition. Nothing. Not even a cough. That's when I saw it. My hood was open. I stepped out and looked underneath. The entire engine block was gone, ripped clean out. Like something had torn it free with its bare hands. And in the dust on the windshield, someone had written, "You're one of us now." I ran. Down the street. Past the general store. Through the alleyways. I didn't know where I was going, just away. I cut through the woods behind the church. That's when I found it. A trapdoor. Half covered in leaves. Metal. Rusted. With a symbol etched into it, a spiral with sharp edges. I lifted it open. The hinges screamed. Beneath was a staircase. Stone. Leading deep underground. And even though every cell in my body told me not to, I went down. The air was thick. Damp. The walls were lined with carvings, names. Hundreds of them. Etched by hand. And symbols. Circles. Bones. Sharp lines. Old language. At the bottom, I reached a chamber. Candlelit. And in the center, a pit. Inside the pit were bones. So many bones. Skulls. Ribs. Small ones. Big ones. Some cracked. Some scorched. This wasn't just a grave. It was a feeding pit. I turned and saw the altar. Animal skins. Old photographs. And a book, hand-bound. Leather, dark as oil. I opened it. Inside were pages of names, each dated. Each ending in the same word. Holoet. And then I saw mine. Daniel Lee Crawford. Dated today. Hollowed. I staggered back. Heart slamming in my chest. That's when I heard footsteps above me. Dozens. Maybe more. And voices chanting. Not English. Not anything I'd ever heard. I killed the candle and ran. Up the stairs. Out the hatch. Back into the trees. But I wasn't alone. They were in the forest. Running too. Not yelling. Not calling. Just laughing. Like they were playing a game. And I was the rabbit. I ran for what felt like hours. My legs burned. My lungs screamed. Branches cut my face. My shirt was soaked in sweat and blood. Then light. A clearing. A fence. A dirt road. And a truck. An old pickup crawling by. Out-of-town plates. A miracle. I sprinted into the road and waved. Screamed. Begged. The driver slammed the brakes. He looked stunned, eyes wide. "Jesus, man. You all right?" I collapsed into the passenger seat. "Just drive," I whispered. "Don't stop. Don't look back." He hit the gas, and hollow pines vanished behind us. No sign. No road. Just trees, as if it had never been there. I filed a report. Police searched the area. Nothing. No town. No church. No bones. Just empty woods. They said I probably fell, got lost, hallucinated from exhaustion. But I know what I saw. I know what I tasted. I know the pit is real. And most of all, I know my name was written in that book. Holovet, which means they're not done with me. It's been 8 months since I left Hollow Pines. 8 long, sleepless, miserable months. On the surface, things look normal. I'm back in Illinois. I got my job back. Moved into a small apartment. I even started therapy. But something's wrong. Something followed me. At first, it was just the dreams. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, heart racing, convinced I was still down in that underground chamber. Sometimes I'd hear the church bell. Other times, it was the sound of bones cracking. But then, it stopped being just dreams. One morning, I found dirt on my floor. Pine needles on the carpet. No windows open. No reason for it. Then came the scratching. Behind the walls. Inside the vents. Under my bed. At exactly 3:13 a.m. every night. My therapist said it's trauma. My doctor gave me pills. But pills don't explain how my fridge started filling up with meat I never bought. Or how my bathroom mirror fogged up one morning with the words, "We never let go." I changed apartments. It followed. I moved across the city. It found me again. A few weeks ago, I woke up in my kitchen, barefoot, covered in dirt. My hands were muddy. Under my nails, pine bark. He checked my phone. No calls. But my photos folder had 5 new pictures, each one of me, standing in the woods, smiling, and behind me, Mabel, and the woman in the gray dress, and the man from the store, all of them, watching, grinning. Last night, it happened again. I found the book, the same one from Hollow Pines, sitting on my nightstand, its cover wet, smelling like rot. This time the page was blank, except for one word. Ready? I didn't write that, but my hands were stained in ink. I think I understand now. I wasn't supposed to escape. No one does. Because Hollow Pines isn't a town. It's not a place you find on a map. It's a hunger, a ritual, a living thing that plants itself in people and waits. And now it's waiting inside me. If you ever see a sign for a place called Hollow Pines, don't stop. Don't turn. Don't even look at it. Because once you do, you're already theirs.